shining and the weather is sweet. And someone would say, is this love? And everyone would say everything. Let's move it.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, and as always, this is yours truly, Dobia Mbawuni, Bakutuma na Atabia II, on your authentic, authoritative, objective, and educative Facebook Live program, The Voice. Rastafari. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to talk today. Very important. I've never been excited about my own program than today, what I'm going to share with you today. Very, very important. Now, let's start with the Mampugu prayer. Lord, you are our strength. You are our truth. You are our power. And you are our wisdom. May we dwell upon you and your glory and love and rebuild Boku. May we learn, remember, and share your word, truth, peace, and non-violence, and follow your way all of our days. Lord, you go on ahead and prepare the way. May we obey you with confidence, faith, and truth. You make a way for us where there seems no way. May we never lack wisdom, shelter, good health, and daily bread. May generations after us build upon the foundation of our forefathers. For the construction of Boku, the land of Nagbewa, and his son, the Niri of Mugu. When people are determined, ladies and gentlemen, according to Nelson Mandela, when people are determined, they can overcome anything. Whether the president is on their way, whether a king is on their way, whether a lion is on their way, whatever, when people are determined, whether it is just one person, whether it's just two people, whether it is just three people, whether it is just millions of people, the most important thing is determination. When you are determined, you can overcome anything else. And I'm coming to you tonight with determination. I'm coming to you tonight with truth. I'm coming to you tonight to let you understand that the struggle is not over. To let you understand that the Niri will enskin a chief of Boku. Take it from me, ladies and gentlemen. Take it from me. The Niri will enskin a chief of Boku. You know, the message I shared to you about what the president told Abogrago is nothing new. Those of you who felt sad and demoralized, my sincere apology. I did not mean to do that, to make you feel sad and demoralized. We all know the position of the president since 2017. So it's nothing new. I was just trying to communicate to you what I know. And with the hope that we would use that to energize ourselves, strategize, organize, stay focused, stay united, and then wait for the day the Nayiri will choose a chief for us. Ladies and gentlemen, my message to the president today is 8 pages. 8 pages to the president today. And before I start, let me refresh our energy again from a song from Bob Marley. It's important. I'm excited. Trust me, there's victory. And remember, I told you that I'm gonna be honest with you. I told you that anytime, at whatever point, I realize that we've gotten to the end of our journey. If you remember, I told you that when I get to know that we've gotten to the end of our journey, I will tell you. I'm not the kind of person who will shy from telling you the truth. I'm not the kind of person who will be massaging things. No. When we get to a point that I know that the Nayiri will not enskin a chief or cannot enskin a chief, I will tell you. Please, take it from me. And moreover, let me make this clear. When I talk about law, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a trained lawyer. But I have a degree in legal training. I want to make that, I hate to say things like this about myself. But trust me, I have a degree in legal training. I haven't gone to law school to do a professional law course to become a lawyer. But I know something about law. So I just don't come and say things that I don't understand. Ladies and gentlemen, so I just want to throw this out there for you, my viewers, my cherished viewers, Mampurugu. Take me serious. Take me serious. And today we're going to talk law, and I'm going to educate the president, Nana Akufo-Addo, about some basic law. Nana Addo's understanding of law is now rusty, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, let me give you this song, then I'll share the message I have for the president with you, ladies and gentlemen. Bob Marley said, we can make it work. We got to make it work. We get to stand up for our right. As somebody will say, we are coming out from the cold. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President, truth is the light of the world. Your Excellency, in 2008, former President John Evans Atta Mills became the third President of the Fourth Republic and Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, on the shoulders of the National Democratic Congress. Like your good self, he also was a lawyer. Mr. President, about a week ago, in a statement issued by Member of Parliament for Boku Central, Honorable Mahama Ayarga, on the recent crisis in Boku, the Member of Parliament stated, and I quote, "The Zugurana was personally present when my own grandfather, a Khalifa, asked the late President Evans Atta Mills to dismiss me as an appointee in the NDC government because, as a lawyer and a grandson, I had advised my grandfather and uncles who made up the Mamprusi delegation that was going to meet the president, Atta Mills, that no government could ever reverse the constitutional arrangement which affirms the status of Abogrago Azoka II as the overlord of the Kusasi traditional area." Your Excellency, this is what Mahama Ayarga communicated to the world barely a week ago. Your Excellency, have you considered asking Mahama Ayarga and the Kusasis why former President Mills never told the Nayiri or the Mamprusis delegation that the Boku chieftaincy dispute is settled and that the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Kusasis as you are doing? Have you ever asked yourself or asked Mahama Ayarga or asked the Kusasis, Your Excellency? Mr. President, it is simple. The learned law professor, John Evans Atta Mills, understood the rulings very well. Likewise, former President Kufuor, also a lawyer. That is why none of them ever dared telling the Nayiri or the Mamprusis that the Boku chieftaincy dispute is settled based on the 2003 Supreme Court ruling, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, let me talk about power. As a President of the Republic of Ghana and Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, you wield enormous executive power and can exercise this power wisely or ferociously at your whims and caprices, and against any person, including the Nayiri, group of persons, or tribe in Ghana, including the Mamprusis. You can do that with your executive powers. Mr. President, such an impressive power, however, is temporary. But if care is not taken, it could cloud the holder's senses, destroy his nature with destructive pride, arrogance, and sometimes even tempt him to instruct a king to throw his crown into the deep sea or sacrifice his child to please him. Your Excellency, indeed, this reminds me of the wise words a late 19th century British historian and politician, Lord Acton, wrote in a letter to Bishop Gritton in 1887, around the time Mamboda Mahama was the chief of Boku. Your Excellency, Lord Acton wrote, and I quote, "If there is any presumption, it is the other way against holders of power, increasingly as the power increases. Historic responsibility has to make up for the want of legal responsibility. Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Great men are almost always bad men, even when they exercise influence and not authority. Still more even when you superadd the tendency or the certainty of corruption by authority. There is no worse hearsay than that the office sacrifice the holder of it, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, let me talk about you and then the Nayiri. Mr. President, the 33rd Nayiri of Mugu Kingdom, Na Abdullahi Mahami Bohagu Shiriga, understand the enormous responsibilities on his shoulders. He is the spiritual leader and commander-in-chief of Mugu, and he carries the dignity, joy, hope, strength, pride, pains, feelings, and emotions of every tribe under his kingdom, more particularly the Mampusis, especially in difficult times like we are experiencing today. Mr. President, the Nayiri is a man of few words and wise, patient, respectful, and incorruptible. He is a python. He doesn't bark. He doesn't roar. He swallows. Mr. President, similar to your enviable story of taking inspiration from your father and following his footsteps to become the President of the Republic of Ghana, the Nayiri, the current Nayiri, Nashiriga II, and his late father have both also held same positions as King of Mugu. Of course, Your Excellency, at different times. Mr. President, it was during the reign of the current Nayiri's father that the CPP government distilled over 500 chiefs across the country in 1957, including then Boku and father of Alhaji Sule Yirmiya, a member of the Council of State of your administration. Mr. President, a few days ago, you invited the Nayiri to Accra. He humbly honored your invitation out of respect and not weakness, Your Excellency. I am reliably informed that in a closed-door meeting you had with him and a few others, though the doors were not closed, you told the Nayiri that the Boku chieftaincy dispute is settled, that the Supreme Court of Ghana ruled in favor of your friend, Asigiri Abugrago Azoka, and the Kusasis. Your Excellency, proud to the invitation of the Nayiri, you instructed two of your ministers, the chieftaincy and the interior ministers, to provoke the Mampusis with your political interpretation of the said Supreme Court rulings in 2003. Knowing very well that the legal interpretation of the court's ruling as given by your law firm, which represents the Mampusis, exposes your political interpretations of the ruling, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, having laid the foundation for the Supreme Court rulings and your understanding of the ruling, let me go ahead to say that Veritas Lux Mundi, truth is the light of the world. And for the avoidance of doubt, respectfully, Your Excellency, I like to read the letter your law firm wrote to the Mampusis after the Supreme Court ruling on their request to withdraw the case against Asigiri Abugrago Azoka upon realizing that the law that made the late Abugrago Azoka Bokunaba in 1984. Made him your friend Sigiri Abugrago Azoka Bokunaba in 1984 had been repealed in 1986. In 1996. Mr. President, at this juncture, I wish to bring to your kind attention by reading two paragraphs of a legal opinion from your law firm, Akufu Addo, Prempe & Co., signed by Attorney Philip Addison and submitted to the Mamprusi princes of Boku on the very day the Supreme Court delivered its ruling in 2003. Your Excellency, as a reputable, trained lawyer and former Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana, and let me say, as we've been made to believe, you know very well that a legal opinion letter from a lawyer or law firm is a formal expression of judgment or advice based on the lawyer's or firm's legal knowledge and expertise in the area of law, and in particularly the case he or she is handling. In other words, Your Excellency, lawyers or firms' understanding of the law that applies to a particular case. It must also be mentioned that any such opinion, Your Excellency, communicated to a client represent the institutional conclusion of the law firm. Hence, it is imperative the reputation of the firm supports its opinion. Mr. President, that said, I will proceed to read both paragraph 3 and 4, clearly stating your firm's legal opinion to your clients, the Mamprusis. And it reads as follows, Mr. President. Paragraph 3. And for the avoidance of doubt and for the benefit of my audience, let me show them the letter. I don't want to show them the full content, but a proof that I have the letter. When you look at this letter clearly, it is written there, Akufo-Addo, Prempeh and Co. Your Excellency, the letter was signed by, for the avoidance of doubt, the letter was signed by Philip Addison for your law firm. Your Excellency, paragraph 3 of the said letter reads, it has come to our notice that some persons, notably of Kusasi extraction, have been deliberately distorting both the proceedings in the Supreme Court and the import of those proceedings. Paragraph 4 reads, Your Excellency, and I quote, the effect of the actions in the Supreme Court is that nothing was adjudicated upon, and the court made no pronouncement on the merits of the case that had been brought before it. The statu quo ante was restored as if nothing had happened. Contrary to what some detractors are saying, this discontinuance did not put the Mamprusis in any worse position than before. Absolutely nothing changed. Your Excellency, this is the legal opinion your law firm presented to their client, the Mamprusis, in accordance of the ethics of the legal profession. Your Excellency, let me emphasize that in this legal opinion from your law firm, it stated that contrary to what some detractors are saying, the discontinuance did not put the Mamprusis in a worse position than before. Your Excellency, I don't know whether you are currently one of the detractors. Respectfully. Mr. President, I think it would also be helpful to respectfully inform you that the said letter from your firm, signed for by the very lawyer who represented you in the 2012 election petition, was addressed to a retired Justice of the High Court of Ghana, who is also my grandfather, Justice Bukare Yakubu, a Mamprasi prince. And let me emphasize, a retired High Court justice of enormous experience, Your Excellency. Let me respectfully add that at the time your law firm accepted the Mamprasis as your client in 2003, Your Excellency, an attorney-client relationship existed between the two of you. So in giving your legal opinion of the result of the ruling, ethics of the profession require three basic duties, Your Excellency, as a lawyer. 1. Loyalty to your client. 2. Confidentiality. 3. Being a zealous advocate of your client. Your Excellency, loyalty in this instance also means being honest with your client and providing him or her the best legal opinion and advice. I do not think you will want your former client, the Mamprasis, to believe that you were not honest with them in your legal opinion of the Supreme Court ruling, Your Excellency. And if I may add, your law firm did not only provide a legal opinion on the ruling to the Mamprasis, but it also provided an advice as to what the Mamprasis should expect or can do next. For some reasons, I don't want to share that with the general public. Your Excellency, talking about honesty in the legal profession, I respectfully like to draw your attention to a very important document you signed somewhere in 1968. As chairman of the Ghana Legal Council, together with one S. Edu as the secretary, titled Legal Profession into brackets Professional Conduct and Etiquette Rules 1968 LI 613. Your Excellency, Rule 9 of the Code of Ethics, titled Others Professional Conduct, and Section 7 states as follows: a lawyer in his dealings with the client must behave with the utmost honesty and with frankness, and any breach of this rule constitutes professional misconduct. Your Excellency, as at 29th April 2003, the very day the Supreme Court delivered its ruling, the very day your law firm presented its legal opinion on the ruling to the Mamprasis, attorney-client relationship existed between the two of you. The attorney-client relationship expired the day after the case was disposed of. And it might also be added, based on the understanding that the Mamprasis never told you that they want to retain you as their lawyer. These are two conditions. But what I'm trying to make, the point I'm trying to make is that on 29th April 2003, there existed an attorney-client relationship between you and the Mamprasis. And by the ethics of the legal profession, you ought to be honest, you ought to be frank with the Mamprasis, your client, in providing your legal opinion and advice on the case to the Mamprasis. Your Excellency, is that what you did in 2003? Mr. President, considering your current position and perhaps understanding of the said Supreme Court ruling, which obviously and absolutely is contrary to the legal opinion given by your law firm to your client, the Mampusis, can one conclude that you are either betraying your law firm with your entrenched and explained position based on lack of sound understanding of the ruling? Your Excellency, what then happens to the reputation of your law firm? Your law firm says that the Supreme Court ruling has no any effect negatively to the Mampusis case as far as chieftaincy dispute in Boku traditional era is concerned. That is the legal position of your law firm. Your personal position is that the Supreme Court ruling in 2003 was in favor of the Kusasis, Your Excellency. Isn't this a betrayal of your own law firm? Not to even talk about your former clients, the Mampusis. Doesn't this bring in the question of honesty as expected of you by the code of ethics of the Ghana's legal profession? A very document that you signed as the chairman, Your Excellency. Now, Mr. President, let me talk about the Boku scheme. Around 1700s, the time the first Ashanti Hini Osei Tutu unified the various independent Akan-speaking chiefdoms into a kingdom, and before the arrival of the colonial masters in Gambaga, the headquarters of the Northern Protectorate, Na Atabia, the 10th king of the Mampurgu kingdom, established a chieftaincy in Boku around the 1700s. That is why the Boku scheme is under the authority of the Nayiri. Hence, the chief of Boku is traditionally and customarily enskinned by the Nayiri since the 1700s. Your Excellency, I must emphasize that before 1721, the year chieftaincy was established in Boku, there was nothing like a place called Boku and human beings living there. Before 1721, there was nothing like that, Your Excellency. In fact, as of 1820, according to J.K.G. Syme, the colonial divisive agent who wrote the Kusasis history for them in the 1900s and mischievously referred to Boku as a Kusasi land, there were only 5 large compounds in Boku, the Boku that we know today, according to J.K.G. Syme in 1820. It is also significant, Your Excellency, to know that around the same time, around 1820, Boku had 5 chiefs, all Mampusi enskinned by the Nayiri. At the time that J.K.G. Syme said that there were only 5 large compounds in present-day Boku, Boku at that time had 5 chiefs, all Mampusis. Mr. President, it might also interest you to know that none of the said 5 compounds belong to a Kusasi or any Kusasi living anywhere close to Boku. Mr. President, I know your good friend Stephen Yakubu and other Kusasis have lied to you that it was the colonial masters who lorded the Mampusis on them. Sir, has any Kusasi ever honestly told you that the colonial masters first came to the north in the 1900s? About 180 years after the establishment of chieftaincy in Boku by the Mampusis, and 20 years after the Ashanti Kingdom was founded. Has any Kusasi ever told you this? Has the historian, the presidential historian, ever told you this? Have you ever asked the presidential historian to give you the history of Boku, the history of the Kusasis, the history of the Mampusis, to enable you to take an informed position and decision besides the legal position that you are taking, which in itself is weird. Your Excellency, it is also useful to mention that the Union Jack, the British flag, was hosted by the colonial masters in 1907 in front of the palace of Namamboda Mahama, a Mampusi, and 7th chief of Boku. Also, it was not until 1932 when the colonial masters proposed, and with the consent of the 26th Niri Nabadim Suguru, that the Boku skin was elevated from being a canton to a divisional status, and the 10th Boku Naba, my great-grandfather, Nabugri Mamboda, was elected the first divisional chief of the Boku traditional area, and with delegated authority of the Nayiri to enskin the other divisional chiefs, including Kusasi chiefs, who previously were enskinned by the Nayiri himself. Mr. President, fast forward. In 1957, a year after my grandfather Nabugru Wuni, the 12th Boku Naba, died, one of his cousins and father of Alhaji Sule Yirmiya, Na Yirmiya Mahama Salma, was enskinned the 13th paramount chief of Boku by the father of the current Niri of Mugu, the very person you invited to Accra and told him to bequeath the skin his father and all Nigeris protected. Your Excellency, let me talk about politics. Your Excellency, our political party, the New Patriotic Party, NPP, to help contextualize a couple of questions that I have for you, let me talk about the New Patriotic Party. Your Excellency, undoubtedly, the NPP is an offspring of the United Gold Coast Convention, UGCC, which your father was one of the leaders. Your late father is one of the men known in Ghana's history as the Big Six, who fought for our independence. Your Excellency, with the greatest of respect, let us consider what you told the Nayiri when you invited him to Accra. And of course, also look at these scenarios that I'm about to present to you. Your Excellency, if the Nayiri was to tell you that it was Dr. Kwame Nkrumah that led Ghana to independence, hence Ghana should celebrate Founder Day in his honor and not Founders Day, to include the Big Six, which would also include your father, would you have agreed with the Nayiri and abandon the celebration of Founders Day and rather stick to Founder Day in honor of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah? If the Nayiri were to suggest that to you, would you agree? Mr. President, in 2008, if the Nayiri then had told you not to contest for president on the ticket of the NPP because you will lose, what would you have thought of him? Your Excellency, again, if the Nayiri had told you at the meeting in Accra not to campaign for the MPP in 2024 because the NDC will win, what would you think of him? Mr. President, if the Nayiri had told you in 1992 that the general election was settled, that the Electoral Commission had declared in favor of Jerry John Rawlings, and that it wasn't a stolen verdict, would you have agreed with the Nayiri and not help write and publish the book titled The Stolen Verdicts? Your Excellency, if the Nayiri had told you in 2012 not to challenge the election of John Mahama at the Supreme Court because the election was settled and the Electoral Commission declared in favor of John Mahama, would you have accepted his opinion as sound and wise? Mr. President, back to the Boku scheme. After Nayir Mia Mahama came the 14th Boku Naba na Adam Zangbeo in 1967. And until his death in 1983 as a paramount chief of Boku. Mr. President, during his reign, your father was the Chief Justice of Ghana from 1966 to 1970 and President of Ghana from 1970 to 1972. Mr. President, your father throughout his life knew the Mampusis as the rightful custodian of the Boku scheme and royals of Boku. Mr. President, the late Na Adam Zangbeo, a Mampusi and former chief of Boku for that matter, was enskined by the 30th Niri of Mugu na Bohagu Adam, as stated earlier on, the father of the current Nayiri. Interestingly, like Jerry John Rawlings did under his PNDC military regime in 1983 by passing PNDC Law 75, which barred the Mampusis from performing the funeral of Na Adam Zangbeo, Your Excellency, and enskinning a chief. The said law was repealed in 1996, sorry. And yet, you as the President of the Republic of Ghana, having represented the Mampusis in 2003 and having given your legal opinion, your law firm's legal opinion to the Mampusis, telling them that the chieftaincy dispute as per the Supreme Court ruling is not over. Yet you refuse to allow the current Nayiri to perform the funeral of Na Adam Zangbeo. Mr. President, for the records, the father of the current Nayiri was the king of Mampugu from 1948 to 1966, a staunch supporter and financier of the Northern People's Party and later the United Party. Your Excellency, during his reign, he used his powers and resources to further the cause of the United Party. It is a fact, verifiable fact. Your Excellency, as a result, he became the #1 enemy of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and a target of deliberate negative government politics and laws to weaken his kingdom, just as your government is currently doing under your leadership, Your Excellency. Mr. President, just as you are doing to the current Nayiri, with your power as President and Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, I must say, also carried out series of contemptuous actions aimed at weakening the current Nayiri's father's influence and the strength of the Mampugu kingdom. So Mampugu is not new to what is happening to it currently under your influence and power. as President of the Republic of Ghana. Your Excellency, on the 18th of January 1958, the then local government minister announced the Local Government Amendment Act in the Northern Region, which was passed by the CPP government the year your friend's father, Abugrago Azoka, was recognized by the CPP government as Boku Naba, while Na Yirmiya Mahama, father of Alhaji Sule Yirmiya, was still the Boku Naba. Your Excellency, in 1957, that happened. And Boku had two chiefs, thus creating a chieftaincy dispute, which we are still struggling to resolve up to date. If I may add, Your Excellency, like your chieftaincy and interior ministers are doing to the Nigeri and the Mamprusi, it might interest you to know that Aaron Ofori Atta, the Minister for Local Government in the Nkrumah's government, and other CPP leaders threatened the current Nayiri's father and other important chiefs who supported the United Party, the party that gave birth to our party, the MPP, today. They threatened them and said that they might be destooled if they did not change their allegiance to the government party. Indeed, Your Excellency, the Nayiri lost both his secular and traditional powers as a result of the actions of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, then President of the Republic of Ghana. Mr. President, the father of your Vice President was the secretary to the father of the current Nayiri at that time. Your Excellency, it looks like history is repeating itself ironically. Mr. President, somewhere last year, the Mamprugu Youth Association, and if I may unequivocally state, not Boku Mamprusi Youth Association, but the Mamprugu of the Kingdom of Mamprugu Youth, held a press conference, and in a message to your government on the political dynamics of the Boku crisis, they stated, and I quote, "We are fully aware of how some people continuously lobby government to ignore concerns of the Mamprusis in Boku because according to them, the Kusasis are in a so-called majority. We wish to state that the Boku skin is of much interest. It is of much interest to the entire Mamprugu kingdom, and any attempt to ignore the concerns of the Mamprusis is a recipe to the poor performance of the MPP party or any political party on the Northeast region, an extension of Mamprugu kingdom in the Upper East region and Northern region. The statistics below from the 2020 election should be a word of caution for all political parties, especially the ruling government. This statistic compares the votes in the Northeast region to the entire Upper East region, and not even the smaller Kusasi areas that are falsely regarded as majority." End of quote. Your Excellency, Northeast has 6 constituencies with a total of 235,048 valid vote cast for both the MPP and the NDC in the 2020 election. The MPP obtained 122,742 votes, representing 51.37% percentage, Your Excellency, and 112,306 for the NDC, representing 48.63%. Mr. President, the Upper East region, on the other hand, has 15 constituencies. But listen to this carefully, Your Excellency. MPP regional votes, not Kusasi's vote in Boku, MPP regional votes, was 175,400, representing 34.44%. The entire vote of MPP in the Upper East region, and not Kusasi areas, just the Upper East region, was 34.44%. The NDC also obtained 322,317 votes, representing 63.29%, Your Excellency. Mr. President, looking at the figures purely on ethnic majority standpoint, has always been the propaganda card the Kusasi use to corner politicians for their support. Obviously, the Mamprusi vote alone in the Northeast region, without the votes of the Mamprusi princes of Boku, should tell politicians that Mamprugu is waiting for them in 2024. Mr. President, Upper East region is not a Kusasi region, but Northeast is a Mamprusi region. That is the fundamental difference between the Mamprusis and the Kusasis in terms of majority vote for election. Your Excellency, may we all live to campaign in 2024. Mr. President, the Niri, Mamprugu, and the Mamprusi princes of Boku are united, stronger, resolute, and speak with one voice now than ever before. Mr. President, politicians like Dr. Kwame Nkrumah have taught us bitter lessons in 1957, but we probably took it for granted. The attitude of the current MPP government under your leadership, I must say respectfully, indeed has helped us rediscover our sense of oneness, our sense of one people with a common destiny moving forward. Mr. President, we are grateful to you and we wish you well in your future endeavors after 2024. Never will we ever forget, Your Excellency. Mr. President, to conclude, I believe I have spoken truth to power. Therefore, I like to conclude with a quote from one famous Athenian philosopher called Plato. And I quote, "No one is more hated than he who speaks the truth." Thank you, Your Excellency. Respectfully, Dobia Mbawuni Bakutoma Atabia II. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. I would wish to end today's program, but of course, we will continue another day. I will keep you updated on when I will come on and what I will talk about. But let's end today's program with this song from Bob Marley.
Or another one would say sun is shining and the weather is sweet. And someone would say, is this love? And everyone would say everything. Let's move it. Get up, stand up for
Ladies and gentlemen, I just got an important concern from a friend, and you know, and I think it's important I share with you. Talking about the conduct of the president, the understanding of the president regarding the 2003 Supreme Court ruling, and acting contrary to the legal opinion, the official legal opinion provided to the Mampusis by his law firm. I think it's very important to emphasize on the ethical principles of the president as a trained lawyer, and taking into consideration his case with the Mampusis, his client. Is there any fairness in the conduct of the president regarding the Supreme Court ruling? Has he been fair to the Mampusis as a lawyer? Whether they are now his client, or they were his client and no more, or not, but the legal principle and fairness, because he kept engaging the Kusasis in his plans for them, his position, and everything, ignoring the Mampusis, the very people he represented, his law firm represented as his client. Isn't there the need to question his ethical principles? And mind you, even the issue of honesty, which is very fundamental and very, very important as a lawyer, and which is even captured in the Ghana Legal Council Code of Conduct for lawyers, a document he signed as the president, talking about honesty, how a lawyer should handle or deal with his client. You have to be frank, you have to be honest. Now we know that the position, let me emphasize, the position of the president currently is contrary to the position of his law firm officially communicated to the Mampusis. Where is the ethical principle from the president? But ladies and gentlemen, I want you to note two things. The president's position on the Supreme Court ruling is it doesn't sound legally, is unsound. It is grounded on political promise he made to the Kusasis and also propaganda. These are the two things that is informing the position of the president as far as the 2003 Supreme Court ruling is concerned. I challenge the president to instruct his attorney general to provide explanation of the 2003 Supreme Court ruling of the case and publicize it for everybody to know in Ghana. I challenge the president to instruct his attorney general, since that is the position of the government, he should instruct his attorney general to provide legal opinion of the government on the ruling. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen.
Most
You can fool some people some of the time, but you cannot fool all the people all of the time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for your attention. Thank you for your time. May God bless us. May God continue to be with the Mampusis. May God continue to prolong the life of the Nayiri. May God continue to grant him wisdom. May God continue to grant him the strength and make him enskined a legitimate chief of Boku, and whoever wants, whether the president or the Republic of Ghana, he or she is entitled to take the Mampusis to court. Ladies and gentlemen, good night, and I love you all. Bye bye.